Michael Engel. David Taylor. Bob Halverson.
Any public comments?
Okay.
We're gonna go on to informational items. Donations.
You guys hear me okay? Just do it. Now, there we go.
This is on the domain.
So we've
right?
got some school supplies from Montgomery VFW. Post.
Yeah, no, it should automatic.
5-2 for students at Park Elementary School right now. We also have a trombone from Robbie Giffey for students at Johnson Elementary School. We've got school supplies from Trinity Episcopal Church for elementary school. We also have a $500 donation from Aurora Lions Club Foundation for the NROTC program at East Aurora High School. We also have a $1,200 donation from Trinity Episcopal Church for Beaufort Elementary School. And the last one we have is a $2,000 serve and return
Which is why
Chicago for the girls tennis team. Any questions about those? So the next part, we got the monthly financials, which are inclusive of the August 2025 revenue, expenditure, and fund balance reports, as well as the August 2025 payroll report with it as well. Questions on the system?
And we did not have a question.
So the first one that we have coming up, it's the bank signers. This is kind of just general housekeeping. This is all of our principals and assistant principals, as well as a couple of administrators on every student activity account for the district. This is for the district wide, so board's approval. And then that way we actually start doing student activities, so they're all in there. The next one that we have is for a financial consultant. We're looking from, this was brought up a few months ago, we were looking for kind of help with long-term projections and financial forecasting and obviously running projections. We received 2 proposals. First one is from Illuminate Financial Consulting, which is owned and operated by Dr. Robert Grossi. The proposal includes monthly board reports, budget and tax levy assistance, as well as other financial analysis, including projection reporting. This agreement is for 1 year, starting 7/1 through 6/30/2026. The annual cost will be $24,000, so obviously prorated for this year. The second proposal was from Frontline, formerly PMA Forecast 5, which includes multiple products, including comparative analysis, budget management analysis, student analytics lab, location analytics as well. I included their proposals in there. The cost, and this is the cost for version 4 Frontline Business Analytics, it's $106,920. Even if you kind of peel that back, it's still more than double of Lumen Financial Consulting. Right now, our recommendation would be that the Board of Education approve the agreement with Illuminate Financial Consulting at the cost of $24,000. This is something that we're looking forward. And this would be for the next one.
Why is it that Frontline, I mean, do they include additional items?
Frontline has the additional student analytic portion of it. Frontline is just higher, much higher. Like each one of their modules, I want to say 2 or 3 of them were over 30 grand a piece for each one of those. They give you guys a little bit of long-term, short-term kind of history over there. It used to be kind of Forecast 5 and then PMA. I don't know if you guys remember PMA out of Naperville. They opened Mike English sold his share of it, ended up a private equity firm, and a private equity firm ended up selling all of it to Frontline, and they have a market kind of corner, if you will, for their products. So they're more possible for sure.
Now with Robert Rossi, has he done, I mean, have we done business with?
Absolutely. He was the previous, he was the CFO / treasurer of Boone Township Treasuries.
Okay,
That's why you know the name.
Okay.
He had been there for 39 years. He's well renowned in the state. He's probably, I would say, top 3, top 4 in the state. And he has ran Illuminate. It's his financial consulting business on the side for like the last 10 years, but he's helped out I want to say probably about 200 districts statewide, all the way from the southern tip, all the way to the northern suburbs, for sure.
Well, 24,000 is,
Yeah, for sure.
but then that's low compared to the other. You know,
Do we have any other products with Frontline?
We have quite a few products with probably not HR stuff, for sure.
And even then they wouldn't say, hey, you know, valued customer.
I mean, it's a standalone product, each and every one of them, so
Yeah.
it's an add-on, that's how they.
Dr. Engel, you feel that the $24,000 quote from Illuminate will definitely suffice for the needs we have as opposed to the one that's 4 times the cost if we were to add some other products?
No,
or-
absolutely, I think, quite honestly, for the money proposition, the value is very high, not only that, but this gentleman, Dr. Gross, who also has intimate knowledge of the school district and its operation, that it's means and goings, if you will. I would be very concerned, 100%, and it's great to have a second set of eyes and skills, for sure, 100%, and a third party, if you will.
I'm good, I'm good.
I'm gonna try to take my time here, my guest hasn't arrived yet, so. Yes, if you don't mind, yeah. But yep.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. We have a few things on the agenda from the HR side of things today. There are, first thing is the request for Simmons Middle School, band overload. And this is, an overload that's run for the past several years. Students, the reason for the request is that students who receive reading intervention, are often pulled out of an encore or band class and not allowed to take that. So where they will run extra, periods to allow those students in intervention to simultaneously also take band. That's the overload. Brought that to the Board of Education in the past, just for your background. Any questions? I'm gonna go, I'll do them one at a time, since we're waiting on here.
Find some time.
The next is request for approval of a one-to-one special education teacher assistant for Mr. High School. The rationale for this request is there is a student with a medical need for a one-to-one teacher assistant, and for the IEP, we are required to provide that one-to-one teacher assistant. Next, in a similar request, we also have emergency authorization for student, again, mandated by their IEP, at Oak Park Elementary School, and we do have a request for the approval of a one-to-one special education teacher assistant at Oak Park Elementary School. As dictated by the. Any questions? And last, I will discuss the administrative procedure projects and contract. As you may know, Dr. Halverson has spoken about the need for having an administrative procedure manual and having something that our administrators can use that is going to be tied to board policy. This proposal goes through, is in partnership with the Illinois Association of School Boards, and will be done in conjunction with them and would be directly tied to our press policies, which we bring before you regularly. What they would do then for us is to provide us a draft. We would have a team of administrators look at that, review those policies, make any tweaks that we feel would be necessary for our district. But we feel that the adoption of this proposal and the signing of this contract would be certainly cost beneficial, because to take this on ourselves would take us an inordinate amount of time and then an amount of administrative salaries and time to create these procedures from scratch, when we can tie these to our existing board policy and have a consistent administrative procedure tied to our board procedure, and give our staff something to refer to as we move through the school year.
Okay,
ensuring
he's talking
consistency
about-
throughout the school district. I should note that all of the, items that I just described tonight will all be coming down for action. The last item with regard to the administrative procedure project is specifically timely because the IASB only holds about 10 slots for school districts around the state. And we have met all of the necessary prerequisites that they asked for. The last piece is the approval and the signature and the receipt of the contract, which will be up for action this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Dr. Baylor, just to clarify that contract too, we were on the waiting list. They just notified us within the last 25 days or so that we actually were approved. So that's why we're dropping it pretty quickly here. So
That is correct. I believe we are number 8.
I think Dr. Baylor put us on that waiting list back in, I don't know, I want to say it was probably April or so. We were on the waiting list with them. So
Correct.
So in my experience, usually HR updates policies. And as HR, you're asking for extra support to update these policies from the IASB.
Not to update can you hear me okay? Not to update the policies from IASB, but this would be a different entity, completely. This would be taking our board policies. And then what we need to do is to translate those board policies into procedures for our administrators. And so what this project does is it will help us to create procedures for administrators. So while we have policies that are generally broadly written, what we want to have happen is to create some procedures that are very specific and outline pieces for our administrators to utilize on a day-to-day basis when they run into something that may have some policy guidance. And that's the purpose of the project. So it would cover all aspects of our board policy that we have in us. All of the policies they would write, they would help us write procedures for all of those.
So I think the one way to look at it is it's really taking it from theory, which the policy would be the theory, to practice, which would be kind of the protocols that would be established. So that way it allows our building level administration to operate in a timely manner. It kind of puts the guardrails in place for them. It was one of the things that we worked to establish as far as taking some of the site-based ownership back to building administrators while supporting them still at central office. But this would help us take that even a step further because it would actually take it from, like I said, from theory to practice. That is what we look forward to. So if you had a student who had a medical reaction in the school setting, and we have the board policy tied to it, this would be procedures on how to react in real time. That will be available to the administrators, both in a paper format as well as online for them as well.
Okay, I can do my presentation first, yeah, I don't think we can do that. Because we're just actually gonna go a little bit more.
So I have to do the second.
You guys.
For the second one,
Yes, not doing.
So full screen.
Okay, so this is the presentation of the tax levy for 2025. Go to the next slide. So tonight, this is obviously the timetable for everything. So tonight, we're gonna go through the tax levy timetable at the Finance and Personnel Committee, which we're doing. We're also gonna do the presentation of the 2025 tax levy. A little bit later, Ms. Elizabeth Hennessy is going to go through the alternate bond levy abatement presentation. And we will have an action item that's gonna go full board a little bit later this evening. That's a full board meeting. It's gonna be the recommendation to approve the estimate tax levy. So it's gonna be the estimated tax levy for the night. On November the 3rd, the recommendation is to adopt the 2025 tax levy. The deadline is, it needs to be filed with the county clerk no later than December 31st, 2025. Needs to be filed with the county clerk, and then in spring 2026. We'll have the final property values are going to be released from the county. The abatements are going to be finalized, and taxes are going to be billed to this taxpayer. So then in June 2026 will be the first installment of these tax bills. And then the second installment is going to be September of 2026. And that's kind of the timeline of revenue.
Whatever we can see.
So this is a visual breakdown of values by type. So you can see EA 131 is mostly residential, accounting for 80% of all local, well, look at it that way, as far as EAV is concerned, equalized assessed value. The next largest is going to be, commercial properties, 14%. Industrial at 5, the state railroad and agricultural farm. Very good. Next slide. So these are the breakdown of revenues. These are not audited as of yet for FY 25, we're going through the audit right now currently. But you can see evidence-based funding made up 52%, state funding made up 7%, federal grants at 22%, real estate tax at 14%, corporate personal replacement property tax at 2%, and 3% local. So you can see it's a big chunk of revenue that comes into the district. So these are the different factors that are used to calculate the levy. So we have a few known factors and a few unknown factors. And some of the known factors include the 2024 total equalized assessed value, which was a little bit more than $1.2 billion. See up there. The 2024 extension, not including bonds. So this is last year's tax levy was almost $80 billion that came in. The consumer price index, so this was December of 2024, we used the December prior. Okay, the CPI, the consumer price index was 2.9%. We are in a cat county, which is, we cannot ask for anything more than 5%. The maximum levy extension is for existing property, so we take last year's property and then multiply it out, we're getting $38,895,994.69. Some unknown factors yet, we won't have these until after obviously the levy process, is the new equalized assessed valuation for 2025. Right now, there's an estimate of it going up 11.51%, and that's from the township assessor for around 11.51%. So we're looking at an estimated EAV of almost 1.4 billion. So it's $1,388,043,182. We also don't know what the final new living rate is going to be for 2025 as of yet. We do have an estimate right now for new property value for 2025. This is all the permits and everything else, construction that has been in our area, of a little bit over $3.5 billion. So these are unknown, but kind of, we're guessing on a few of them. We're not gonna have final figures obviously until later. Next slide. So this is always a great question that a lot of people ask, how do we compare to other school districts here in Florida? So if we go back to last year's tax rate, so this is the 2024 tax rate, you can see East Aurora had an active tax rate of $3.55. The next highest was West Aurora, and that was at $4.61. And then Huntley got $4.63, all the way up to Central at $5.92. So to give you guys an idea of what that truly means, for every $100,000 of equalized assessed value, the school district would take in our case, $100,000 equalized assessed value is $300,000 fair market value. Would be $3,558. Okay, that same house at Central 301 district, same $300,000 house would be paying $5,905 taxes for that same value of the house, of course, in this kind of. So we are very well. Next slide. So this is the breakdown of the fund levy request. So everything there on the left are different funds and different subscriptions. So we have had operations and maintenance, transportation fund, working cash, municipal retirement, social security, special education. Note to the right there, that's going to be the levy request amount. Okay. The only one that changed a little bit this year is working cash went down a little bit. And I ended up levying a little bit more in social security this year and a little bit less than IMRF to help balance out those two funds, quite honestly. We're doing great with IMRF, social security's down a little low, so we're gonna up that one back up. So the total cap levy of 39,685,000. So right now, we know what the bond and interest is for districts, think of it as like our mortgage payment or our long-term debt. So right now, our payments are gonna be $6,562,358, and that's to the penny. Under less the abatement, that's what the Senate is gonna be talking about a little bit later. We'll have an opportunity there. That's why it's under discussion. And then our total tax levy, our ask for this year would be $46,247,358. That's with a 4.99% ask, just under the cap of 5%. However, we're only entitled to 2.9% plus any growth, so it actually leaves some room for pushing for that. We'll never get this, but we're asking for it. Okay? Questions so far? Okay. So again, the district will be requesting a 4.99% levy. The Board of Education will be discussing a little bit, hopefully in the very near future here. Discussing abatements to further help reduce the tax burden of existing homeowners. And then this is Public Act 103-394. Part of this is to show the accumulated fund balances, assuming the expenses for each one of these funds. So fund 10 being education fund, fund 20 buildings and grounds, fund 40 transportation, because these are considered our working funds here, or our operating funds, if you will. And to do a 3-year average, those are our 3-year average, and you can see our ratio, our expense ratio, the fund balance there. The ed fund is 40.28%. And buildings and grounds is going to be a little bit higher this year, only because we're also sitting on that $14.97 million worth of these certificates for the Career and Tech Center, as well as the high school upgrades and long-term projects that need to be done there at the high school. And then Fund 40 is the transportation fund at 152.57%, but that has slowly been going down each and every year as a the state on that. So you can see the average there, we're at 63.13%. This is part of the Public Act. Okay. Any questions? Absolutely.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
She wanted me to ask how this budget, or how it aligns to the budget, and if it has, two different scenarios, one with the normal levy, and one that continues to abate like we've done in the past. And that's, I'm assuming, what we're
Great
aiming
question.
for.
Yes. It actually aligns to our budget, exactly what we're going to be needing for this upcoming year, because it's not going to be necessarily for this year, it's for next year's budget. Because we're asking for it this year, but we'll see next year. Yeah. So, well, let's see how far it got. See the microphone walk there. So, I was thinking, you guys, if you don't mind, if you pull up birds and. Okay. So that's just perfect.
So I'm still picking on.
Stop talking, stop
Turn down
talking.
something.
Well, I need her to get up there because it's picking up her.
Thanks for having me.
That's something to pick them up.
Yes.
Okay, so tonight we're talking about the
Right in the
2025
back.
tax levy
Just-
and options about the debt service and possible abatement. I just have to repeat this slide because it is important to keep in mind that you guys are the lowest tax rate of these comparable districts, certainly of all the districts in King County, by more than a little bit. Okay, really almost $1 in all of the other districts. So it's great for your taxpayers, but it is low. So let's go to the next slide. This is levy history. So what this gives you is going back to levy year 2015, and sorry, but really having you guys look up here. Yeah. What happened in 24, we kind of knew EAV was gonna go up a lot, and it did, 12.9%. But the EAV simply makes the tax rate go down further because you are limited to CPI, which in 2024 was 3.4%. And in addition, in 24, you did a $712,000 debt service abatement. So just to review for you what that is, it's where you transfer some of your operating funds, usually evidence-based funding, into the bonded interest fund and use that to pay principal and interest on bonds instead of the voter authorized debt service levy for that. So that brings taxes down even further. So last year, the total increase in taxes was 1.75%, and the tax rate went down by 37 cents. Again, because if we went up so much, yet you could only levy for operating 3.1% more under the tax cap. And then add that debt service abatement to it, so it was a very increase, and in fact, a substantial tax rate decrease. Here in 2025 levy year, we're getting the same information from the King County Clerk that EAV is gonna go up again quite a bit, 11.5%. So that would allow you, well, that actually, again, has nothing to do with what you can levy, it just means the tax rate keeps going down. This year CPI is 2.9%. So I'm sure Mike just went over that with you, so you can levy. And that amount estimated is 38,994,730. Then you have your debt portion, and if you do no abatement on the debt portion, which is 6,627,992, you're looking at an overall increase in your total levy of 4.38% over the last year. Now you might be asking yourself, as you should, gee, if we can only increase taxes by 2.9%, how come we're going up 4.38%? The reason is debt service is going up more, right? Debt service is actually going up like 12% because you abated last year. So that's one of the things that happens with abatements. It's like, it goes up and down. You know, we want to try to keep that debt pretty stable. And the payments are stable, but when you abate, it goes down one year and then it pops back up the next. So that's why the total increase under the current situation is 4.38%. So the tax rate though still goes down again because of this very large EAV, which this is just the reassessment by the King County Clerk of 11.5%. So we're looking at a tax rate next year that's going to go down 24 cents versus the prior year of 3.2868. Just stop me if you have any questions. Let's go to the next slide. So here's the levy plan with a full abatement, and somehow we'll get the following one in here, but the new property, I believe we estimated, what do we estimate? 3.5 million. Last year it was 3.7 million, so we think that's conservative. So again, this is the same plan we just looked at, where the tax levy goes up 4.38%, there's no abatement, and the tax rate goes down 24 cents. So this is kind of option one, no abatement. Okay, let's go to option two. So in this case, we're going to abate $350,000, about half of what we did last year. So this takes your debt service levy from 6.6 million down to 6,277,000. So in this case, instead of the taxes going up 4.38%, they go up 3.57%. Tax rate drops even further, 26 cents in this case, but it's a lower percent increase. So that's levy plan 2. If we go to the next slide, levy plan 3, this is 718,000. It's a little more than last year, but the idea is to keep the debt levy in this option exactly the same as it was last year. So last year it was 5,909,000. If we abate 718,000, we get that 5,909,000 again, very similar to the prior year abatement. Again, that's where you're taking operating funds and putting it into the debt service fund to pay principal and interest on bonds instead of the voter approved levy. So in this case, it's only a 2.73% overall increase. And the decrease of the tax rate is 29 cents. So let's go to the next page and look at what does this mean for the homeowner? Now, this is always a confounding, analysis in that the EAV is going up 11-12%. But if you ask, go to Zillow or Redfin or Google, and in this case, we went to Google AI and looked at the home value in school district 131. Because these wonderful AI programs can now figure out in school district 131, what home values were last year. They said average sale value last year was 320,000. This year, 326,000, reflecting just a 1.9% increase. So that's kind of interesting, whereas the overall EAV of all properties are going up more. So in the do nothing scenario, levy the max and don't do any abatements, again, we see the increase in the EAV of 4.38%. And then we see the impact on the homeowner in dollars actually going down, because again, the tax rate's going down. That means other properties are going up in the district. If we look at the $350,000 abatement, we have the change or the percent increase in the total levy at 6%. But again, because the home values aren't going up as much as the PAV, the actual dollars go down by $193. And then if you look at the PTEL $718,000 abatement, we have a 2.7% increase in the debt. But again, the home value, but if the home pace goes down, if we have all these other properties going up, which makes the whole pie bigger, and less on homeowners. So again, I think you should really focus on the percentage change of the levy. It's really very difficult, I think, to reconcile what's happening to the local home market in Eastern Rural 131. Values are only going up 1.9%. Yet the King County clerk says EAV is going up 11.5%. So that's why I say I think you should pay more attention to the change. But just know that when you do those abatements, you are using your efforts.
Operating funds, a lot of our abatements came from evidence-based funding. We tier 1 to tier 2 meant a lot less money this year to the district. So instead of our traditional $6.something million, it was 2. So it's our next largest revenue source for the district was our property.
Yeah, but at the same time, the prices keep going up forever. So at the same time, I want to make sure that for the homeowners, that we either stay, status quo, or that we do. Increase. I mean, they all show that they all show an increase. So
That's an average of 1.9%, but there could be pockets throughout our communities that these could be higher, which then could result in an increase in tax.
Right.
Or based off the sale price of the house, that's what correct.
This is the average sale value of all homes, all properties, not, I know there's pockets in different areas where you may see appreciation going up higher.
Liz, what was that amount you abated over time that was on the total? Was that in Mike's presentation or yours? It was about,
That's mine.
you're about 6 million over time?
Yes, and that's just debt service abatements.
me personally, would be comfortable with option 3, kind of leaving it similar to what we did last year. $718. Last year was about 716.
712.
7.
So again, I just kind of chose them out and these are just 3 directional options. The dollars can change, but the idea in option 3 was keep the debt payment the same as last year. So that's why I'm just a little more.
I think, if I remember correctly, last year you also had other options of paying a larger amount. But, I'm just trying to remember, last year,
Yeah.
it's been so long.
It's not,
That's kind of.
no effect at all. It's not that he's in, principal, it's not taking out principal, so interest balance. It's simply just reducing the payment to taxpayers. The payment on the debt is all the same, investors get what they would. All options, all of the options. So I think what Bertie is mentioning, you know, sometimes you have bonds that are callable and we can pay them off ahead of time. And then the interest disappears. That's a great option. That option will be up to you guys in the year 2027. So that's kind of phase 5 of our whole kind of refunding plan, but that's not for this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz, appreciate it.
And with that, at 6:07, the meeting is adjourned.
Yourself,
Thank
you
you.
know. Good.